it's getting ready. It's live watching or saw that this was coming on can tune in. Getting ready, hair is up. You know, I got a glass of wine, my cats are there. I don't want people to see all that. I just want to make my tutorial, right? So I'm gonna do screen share. I'm gonna share my entire screen. And now it looks awesome, right? But what that does is it takes the camera off of me so nobody sees my sad life with my cats and my glass of wine. What they're going to see, your audience will see. And so that's a bonus tool right there. I love it too because when I get finished with the podcast, it automatically uploads to YouTube for you, because if you have a Google channel, and so it automatically recording sites, it's just automatically there, and you decide what permissions you have. That mess you have, you want it to be public, unlisted, or private. All that's in. Get into what we did today is look at the results of the little form activity that we did. Did you guys know that with Google Forms you can now customize it to put your own headers? So right, they have a lot of data that we collected. I can come up under Forms and say show a summary of the results. So the other thing, and I can come in here and quickly it puts everything into a grid format or into a pie format for you. So I can see here but our main focus here looks like so that lets me know as the presenter get low as well. Focus is going to be to the middle grades people, but I don't need to forget my lovely first graders. And I need to make sure to keep my admin in mind as well. Then I can also come through here and quickly see kind of what subject area. I can also see what type of technology is currently in the schools. And so the other, who put other for the type of technology you have in your school?
It may have been
that in as a so okay. It's one use of those, and so that's good. And then I can see the layout of that here as well. That's good though. Computer labs. I think the push now is to get away from those computer BYOD. And so good. We do have some learning management systems here as well. And then the issues that frustrate you, bandwidth, yeah. And yeah, dead device. We told our kids with our one-to-one at Limestone, and then get your computer. Yeah, definitely student engagement. It's engaging, variety. Yeah, I love all those. So this just lets you get a quick overview of the responses and what's happening there, and lets me know you as an audience a little bit better as participants so that I can address your needs. SnapView is the QR code generator I like to use because it does provide that tiny URL. So if you like using QR codes for like parent nights and things like that, if your parents don't have a smartphone or a smart device, they can still use that tiny URL or write down that tiny URL and be able to pull that up on their computers when they get back home. So that's by admins in the room. Where are my admins? All right. So my admin's in the room. Sometimes you're really stuck on whatever your to do. I encourage you, if you're not there at the district level, to share this with them. It's Future Ready Schools, which is part of the United States Department of Education. Technology, the things that you need to know and do in order to make your schools future ready. And it goes through you need to have. And I love how it sets it up in the slide. No, okay, come back here. They do theirs on gears. So let's look at this planning dashboard. That's where I wanted to go. And we don't want to do that. Okay, framework and resources. Well, about this is that they have to have the gear. You have all of these gears in place. You're going to have this one-to-one, that they don't think about things like that. A lot of we need it, and server space and other things like that that cost a lot of money. And if you don't have them, it's just not going to work right when you've got 200, 300 kids bringing their device up to you. Some of y'all have experienced that and know what a nightmare that can be. What I love about this site too is then for each one of the gears over here, they have more suggestions you might want to. They also have a sent tool to this site, and I would take their self-assessment. It does take about an hour and a half to get through the self-assessment, and it's not just one person that needs to do it. You need to have your IT director, your curriculum director, you need to have your superintendent in there, and other people at the central office level that deal with different things. In that self, what you'll get at the end of it is it will tell you which of those you still need to work on. And then if you still need to work on some gears, it's going to give you suggestions and resources of where you can get information to make those gears stronger for your school district. They also offer all sorts of grants and things that you can get as well. But now in charge of this gives you a read here. And that are happening and the troubles, and then focusing on how can we solve these and keep schools from tripping over the same, not learn from each other so that we're not making the same mistakes. Board with and see what's happening there. If you're on Twitter, I would to Tom Murray on Twitter there too, and he's always so Future Ready is definitely where you would go. I already saw on the Future Ready map that the superintendent in Athens and in Florence, and I'll be so get your superintendents on there and sign up the pledge to be a Future Ready school as well. All right, pencil chat. How many of you have ever heard of a pencil chat? When it's really funny. And then of course you have people who go, well, what if students don't use somebody on the computer? What do? We should just take the computers away. Well, what they started doing in Pencil Chat is relating any excuse to not use technology with the same word pencil in place. You just said cell phone or a device phone or a tablet. You saw how did and made up of some others. That's kind of cool. All right, now there it goes. That circle of death.
If we start with pencils, what would be next? Colored pencils? Pens? Markers? You just watch. Pretty soon, new face together. Imagine how disruptive that's going to be.
I want to see the research and evidence before I bring pencils into my classroom.
There is no evidence that pencils make learning easier, faster, or better. Not everyone can afford a pencil. They break easily, they're a waste of money, and students lose them all the time. I just finally figured out how to use the chalk and blackboard in my classroom.
If we aren't careful, dangerous things can happen with pencils. It's best if we keep them out of schools entirely.
I really wonder about this new fad of pencil integration into all subjects. Don't kids be first?
She didn't use school when she was there, so we shouldn't use pencils in school.
The problem with pencils is that kids are going to copy things right out of the book.
I have a pencil at home, and my teacher says never to bring it to school.
A pencil is useless unless it's sharpened. Who's going to sharpen all those pencils?
Before, but no one was allowed to touch it.
How ridiculous. Pencil in place at some extent. It's still about managing students. Rules, devices that went from being a pencil to being a computer or a smart device. We're severely missing out on the world. One, Google Apps for Education allows you which is just like Microsoft Word, which has apps that they can use in class. Lots of great graphic organizers that they can do in Google Apps. Now, what it does, Google Apps for Education actually puts the kids under an if you're operating outside of the Google Apps for Education arena, you're leaving yourself open for lawsuits because you're not covered at all. So I know some of our high school teachers especially get really on board with wanting to be able to communicate with their kids and use Google, but their school hasn't come on board. Their kids get a Gmail address, their teacher has a Gmail address. It's all personal, and you're setting yourself up for a lawsuit that way. It's awesome. Not only does it do that, but Google Apps and what I used to do when I was at Hoover is we all had iPads at Hoover. And so I could stand at the door of my classroom and I could see every single kid's assignment, see the thumbnails of every single kid's assignment. So my questions changed from, Bobby, did you do your homework last night, to, Bobby, I see you haven't even started the research paper yet. You've already had a week to get started on it. See, in the assessment tool, also it has the ability for you to comment back and forth to each other. So it's a relationship builder as well with the kids. The kids absolutely love it. We used it at Limestone this past year with our 3rd and 4th grade students. And when I asked my teachers at the end of the year, if there's one technology that I taught you, just one that you would pick that you would say is the best thing you've learned all year, they absolutely said for everything that goes along with it, and they would throw everything else out.
That's something we have to get as a district.
Yes.
But most of us in here are teachers. So
you start
So our hands are
pressuring
tied
your
on that.
district.
there's no, I mean, we can't use that today.
No, you start pressuring your district. That's what you do. You
What
start
can I
being an
use-
advocate.
What can I use on August 3rd?
You could get it overnight. It doesn't take long to get it.
As a district? So I can't use that on August 3rd.
I know.
That's no point.
So what you need to do is start advocating and share this with your administrators. SAMR model. Have y'all heard of the SAMR model? Okay, SAMR model is substitution, augmentation, and modification. This is to ability and apps for education. And if you don't be able to get above that line, you're not going to be able to go to that redefinition and modification. Whatever. They don't allow you to pay. They don't allow for formative assessment. They don't allow for relationship building, not like Google Docs does and Google Drive, Google Apps for Education. So you need to make all these arguments with your to be the one saying this is what's best and learning about it all, doing it. So you don't just say, I'm not going to learn about it because we don't have it now. Hopefully you'll have it later. Also, with Google Apps for Education, it's cloud-based and it's device agnostic. The one horrible thing about having a BYOD program as a teacher and then you understand the technology on your own device has to try to troubleshoot 30 other different devices. And you're spending your time troubleshooting and trying to get their device any device any kid brings in, because you see you all have different devices. Actually, you were able to access the agenda I shared with you today, access the form to be able to answer questions, and is this slideshow presentation. So you can just click on that and you'll have my slideshow as well. Very easy to share and collaborate with that. So even if you don't have it, you need to start advocating for it and saying it works well. My kids love it. My teachers have loved it. I wouldn't live without it. I've had Google ever since it came out. I've been using it before there was even Google Apps for Education. I've never lost a single file. But I have been in a school district that got infected with a virus on their servers, the teacher drive server that you save everything to, all your precious lesson plans. And I just finished my 23rd year in education this year. Every single teacher lost every file they ever had on that teacher drive, and so did every kid. And none of them were recoverable, because anytime you tried to open them, porn would pop up. Okay? Guess who didn't lose anything? Me. Because I don't save my stuff onto the server. I save it on Google Drive. I've never lost anything, never had a virus, never had an infection of any kind. And you don't have to buy more servers for your district and spend that money if you're using Google Apps for Education, because you're using Google's servers and it's protected. And they have backup after backup after backup. And so you don't spend money on servers and more of that stuff. You're actually spending money on the devices the kids need. All right, AUP, acceptable use policies. This is so important to have a good, strong, acceptable use policy in place in your school district. And I believe on your agenda, I have put links to a lot of this stuff so that you have some helpful links to go back to as well for your school district when you try to make the argument for some of these things. So going in here, I've got the SAMR model that explains that. All right, with the device, which it will, I didn't say if, I said when. What you want to do, that you I was out of school. They're gonna getting the video from something that wasn't exactly his shining moment and didn't really make him look that great to the public, and they posted that online. Suddenly, there were red signs with no cell phones banning, and he banned cell phones throughout the entire school overnight. In a big way, because there wasn't an acceptable use policy there. My thing is, media and with devices in our schools, because it's a safe. We make mistakes to make those mistakes, and instead of doing a knee-jerk reaction, banning and punishing kids for the mistakes they're making, turn it into a learning opportunity with those kids. What would have been a better response to that for that principal, because he's still a cell phone can do, so it really didn't do any good to ban the opportunity. What at that point is I would have called the kids in. I would have talked to them about why it was inappropriate for them to post video of people without their permission, and what would they feel like if that had happened to them. So much, and they since they talent for it and know how to do it, harness the power of something they already like to do, have them make a public service announcement, like why it's not acceptable to videotape people in secret and post it online. Then you want to take it one step further, have those kids research how to design a green screen and have them build a green screen area in your a place in the library, a little corner in the library, wherever. Major tutorials for each type of device they can think of on how to use the green screen to create videos for class lessons or class projects. Wouldn't that have been a better solution than going nuts and printing up the whole stack of red signs saying we're banning cell phones in this school, but then saying you can still have your iPad, which does the same dang thing, right? So then for them to turn these in to get out into the tech with social to learn other mistakes and then have that track them. Is an inappropriate way. No. I saw a lot of you had learning management systems already, and anybody who use it in an as it gets very teachers using Moodle, one teacher's using their own personal website that they have over here, and every teacher that kid has is using a different landing point. And so having a unified landing point, I know a lot of teachers don't like that, and it's not a popular thing to say, but having a unified landing point where parents for my school, it just makes it so much easier. We don't think about a learning management system as getting them college ready. We then went off to and they said, I'm so glad that we used Moodle in the online program that your university uses, but I know how to use online, but these other kids are so lost. Actually get them college and career. With devices is differentiate, and I'm almost positive I've got, yeah. So right here in your agenda, if you still have that up, I've got a bunch of different tools here. I did a two-day two-day session in person all day long from 8 until 4 for West Georgia recently on differentiation. Cat over the summer, because of course but there's a lot of great resources in here for you to be able to look at for differentiating for your students. So these are some reading and vocabulary, and you might see behind here I have 3 before me. And what I do with that, and I do it with my kids, I do it with my teachers as well, ask 3 before you come. Ask if your brain has a lot of knowledge. Somehow along the way, our kids and even our teachers think and work through something when it's new that I'll be like, I'm not sure what we should do next. What do you think we should do? And they'll be like, well, maybe we should click here. And I'm like, okay, well, let's click there and see what happens. Because even our teachers can't learn it, but we can. Like Travis said yesterday, his brother used YouTube. We can do that too, y'all. Plastic, I know everything. Tutorial. So if you click on the back where it says 3 before you do it, those are tutorials. that tell you how to use each one of these. So I've empowered you to be masters of your own learning. And that's what we want to do with the kids too. We want to empower them to be masters of their own learning as well. Here's some things for student voice, because one thing technology allows us to do is to let students have a voice and to have a say in their learning and in what's going on in the class. And it also evens out the voices in the class, because we always have kids that are the only ones heard in class. And then we have some kids who we think, oh my God, they don't have vocal cords. I've never heard them say a word. But then those kids without vocal cords, when they can talk through this, they say so much, and they have such wonderful things to share. And so the technology gives them that opportunity to share those awesome things. Tools for built-in support. So like right now, we're on air, so you could easily record your lessons and have that available. Or there are some other types of screencasting tutorials that you can use here. And then formal and informal assessment tools, and they all have, or most of them have, little tutorials that you can look at and learn how to use those in your class. So notice anything in blue on your agenda is something you can click on that will take you to more in-depth information for you to be able to use. And take back to the powers that be in your district and get them on board with what they need to be on board with. But it's so important to differentiate with our kids, because we have such a variety of kids in our classroom. I know I had a 4th grader who, when we did Moby Max, it gives him a little pre-test for reading. And some of the kids were already on like 5th or 6th grade level reading. And then this other student, he got started with identifying what's a capital letter, what's a lowercase letter. He was that low in 4th grade. And so what do you do as a teacher when you've got that wide help you to differentiate all those different levels in your class and allow students to move at the pace. Teachers say, I don't like devices. When we got them over at Hoover, when we got the iPads at Hoover, I had a lot of teachers, or several teachers, who were like, I don't like these devices in the classroom. My kids don't pay attention to me anymore. Why? Like the devices in here. And so I asked, and she's like, well, because, and this is what she was doing, y'all. She had taken those overhead transparencies and then she put the PowerPoint up onto her. That was her teaching. Okay. And then with Moodle and with devices, she put her PowerPoint on Moodle. That busy work, that's just busy comfort. That's higher on stage. Right now, I don't like this. I don't like being this stage on stage. Experiment and see what's happening. And if you're a lecturer, yeah, you're going to have a lot of kids. If you're a brilliant lecturer, even if you could go on the TED Talk circuit and wow people, kids are still not going to be impressed with that, and they're not going to listen. So you've got to challenge your students, and you have to do things differently, and you have to that control, but you're going to fight a constant battle with their attention. So that, let go of that control. That size and inquiry based. If you're giving your students activities that they could Google the answer to, that's not a good lesson. And you're going to have problems if, because teachers say, well, we have these devices. If they take the test on their device, they can just look up the answers. You've got to change the way you're teaching. Don't blame the technology because it's a tech. So I know a lot of teachers who aren't doing anything at all with social media, or maybe just got onto Twitter or you do Facebook like I do with the grandchildren, so I can keep track of all my grandchildren and everything. But you know what, y'all? I get out there and I use the tech. I just set up a Snapchat account for James Clemens Library because they have a new feature called Snapchat Stories, and you can actually use those stories to share that out with parents. Have the parents follow you on Snapchat. Have the kids follow you on Snapchat. Have them build a story about what they learned as a summarization tool or as an exit ticket and send that to you. I know teachers who use Snapchat to, I know a foreign language. There's lots of different things that you can use it. Yeah, it's only within a certain radius, so you know that if it's going on in your school, it's somebody in your school is saying the mess. Well, that happened over at Hoover, but what we did is our tech kids, our teachers, our administrators, and our other kids who had pride in their school and didn't like that bullying, we flooded Yik Yak. We flooded it with nothing but that happening. Kids who were being ugly. All of us putting out good stuff. We knocked that Yik Yak out in 3 days, not fucking it. And so that's what you need to do with social media at your school is use social media to your advantage. To build, so that's where they are, that's what they like. They're not even using Twitter. They're using Instagram, but they're even getting away from Instagram. Now Instagram's getting all that Snapchat because again, if we don't allow Snapchat and Twitter and Instagram and things like that in our school, nobody's teaching the kids how to use them responsibly. And then you have to hear whatever he's speaking. Amazing. But he said our kids are growing up on a digital playground, but there's nobody on recess duty. You wouldn't do that in a physical space. You wouldn't send your kids out there and not monitor and supervise them. Why are we doing that on the digital playground? We have it on Snapchat so we can see what they're doing and know what they're doing and know how it works, so that then we can teach them how to use it responsibly so they don't get out into the real world, become your colleague as a teacher, and then tweet something or Snapchat something or put something out there on social media and get fired because they didn't know how to use social media in a responsible manner. We've got to model that for them. Research into not out there using. Do that today was last school year. It doesn't take going over digital citizenship just at one time. You can have digital citizenship awards for somebody who showed really good use. Digital citizenship and how you can be a digital citizen or something. But don't just think, okay, I did this mod how to be good citizens because they got their certificate. Now we're going to go on and not talk about it anymore. It needs to be a constant conversation because you know kids are always going to test to see where that line is. And you think you've made the point of where the line is, then the next thing you know, they're just running right over it. Anyone who's raised children knows that's right. Dance again. MBWA, that means manage by walking around. Obvious, but I see so many go out, and 60 plus, she could retire anytime she wanted to. And she grabbed hold of Google and absolutely, gosh, I wish I now even want to retire. The essay they were going to write, she pushed out to them using Google Classroom the format, just a blank MLA format, so that they didn't even kids are at clickers and on paper. She could see every single kid, even though she wasn't walking around. She knew, hey, Sally here hasn't typed anything in a, and if Sally on Google and Sally didn't respond back, then she, Sally, what is your paper? And so she could what her kids were doing. So way, another good tool to use. 40, I always told my kids to close their alligator mouths, because with the Macs, you know, they start up really fast. So you could close it and then you don't have that lag time. But with PCs, oh God, I hate PCs because when you open them up, it's like waiting forever for it to start back up. But with things like Chromebooks and a MacBook, it just starts back up automatically. And so I would have my kids close their alligator mouth when I wanted them to pay attention to something. But if you've got the PCs and you don't want it to turn off all the way and then have to wait forever for it to turn back on, you can have them just 45-degree angle it. Or if you're using a device, you know, flip your device over and put it on the edge of your desk. Something like that. So have those management tools in place as well. This is funny. Let me turn out the light for this. Look for telltale signs. You can tell usually when your kids are off task, and I happen to find these pictures out online that somebody else had done, and I thought they were really funny. So bring your own technology 101. So if another student is watching another student's screen, odds are they're off task. They're doing something they probably shouldn't be doing. So again, stay mobile, redirect if necessary. And it says there's few assignments that require one hand from each student. Both on one computer, you notice, hey, something's going on. Also, keep an eye on their keyboarding, what they're doing with the and I know their alignment, they're going to be in these lower two sections is where they're most likely going to be. Until kind of see this kid's hands are on either side, but not really typing. You know, he's off task doing something else. And then the position of the hands, giggling. Girls give themselves away way too much with the giggling, don't they? And so you can see what it is that they're doing there as well. So we're finishing a little bit early, but we can always go back through the agenda. I'm always on Twitter. I've been in Twitter jail. So you can always contact me if you have questions, or if you want some of these different options here. And this real quick. And this link. So if you want to try it on your device, try to join me. I'm going to come back into the handy dandy agenda. And I'm just at the very top of the agenda. So all you'll need to do, or should need to do, if you have a camera on your device, is click on that link. If the link didn't come up, refresh your page so that you can see it. With the name of the unit and the agenda and what semester it is, a unit, and have asked the unit, I can add information into that agenda, and I never have to if I send out a new copy of that document every single time I made a change. But with Google, I can just sit there and add as much as I want to, add links to it, add or if I forgot to add something, I can pop it in. And notice up here at the top, I can see who's on there with me right now. So is there anybody who's been able to click on that link so far? Yeah, and then say join. And let's come back over and take a look at this. All right.
Now I'm going to mute.
And you might want to mute yours as well, because otherwise, if we're all in the same room, we're going to get awful feedback.
But normally what you would do is if you're in a conversation like this, you'd have headphones on. I'd also consider having you bring in guests this way.
Instead of having
experts
and guests. So we have Michelle, and then Lexi is on there. Awesome. Now, who's on
computer? Lexi, you're on the computer. Michelle, you're on the computer. Let me show you this one
picture that's just open. And so you have these apps over on the computer. I'm going to show you inside, and then there's little dots where you can add more apps.
Let's see
if it's in here. There's one.
Really fun to do. Right here, Google Effects. And so if you add Google Effects.
And so if you, let's see. Come on, Google Effects. Turn.
I can show you.
Oh, I know. Well, that's trying to decide to not be mean to me. Where's our first graders? All right. There is, I should have assisted some soldiers in Fort Benning before they deployed. It's the story before bedtime. And you can also use it in
first graders. But what this does is it allows you to either
this with your
read
book together and then Google Hangout with your kid and the kid can see you. And even if you're in your kids in like where I grew up, you can still see and hear each other, or you can record the story. And for first grade, what I suggest doing with this is, you know how you test the kids for fluency? You can have this set up at your desk or at a certain desk in your classroom, and let the kids have the book read out and let them record themselves in the book, and then you can go back and watch that recording. And so that's another good that you can have there as well. A story before bedtime, and they're all apps within.
Anybody ever get that Google Effects?
Oh, yes, I have it.
Michelle's got a TR.
No, not Michelle. No. Yeah.
This is making me mad now.
Somebody's got it. It's making me mad. I want a beer. I like to put the pirate hat on. And I can see, you know what? It's because of my, how I have this done. I bet it's because of my display size. Yeah. All right, so there was a question and they didn't say anything, so I can turn that question off. There we go, now I can see it. So now I can put on a pirate hat, eye patch, move around. That's just silly. But I had a math teacher that used Google Apps, not Google Apps, Google Hangouts to do tutorials for his kids. Because he's also a football coach, and so his kids could stay after school for after school tutoring because they were out on the football field. So every Tuesday night, he had a Google Hangout at 9:30, and his kids, he would take that link that I showed you earlier, he'd put that on his Google page, and his kids would do it at 9:30 on Thursday night, so they would put that link, and he would go out on there. And he would go over and give tutorial lessons for them. And you know where kids can watch? He didn't have them join like Lexi and Michelle did. He didn't have them join it, but he gave them the link to watch it and to ask questions. And so I'm gonna. Did you turn that on? And I can mute. Where do I mute? There we go. I muted you. Oh, I thought I did. Is it me?
It's the voices in my head again, right? And so what he did is he had that. The nice thing about it is if the kid wasn't able, I'm not sure what I'm going to do that. If the kid wasn't able to actually be there at 9:30, because Google Hangouts automatically records and
I'm on now.
Looks like we're getting further than, there we go.
Oh, so what happened? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And so now I can, yeah, now I can see you and you can see me.
Okay, so how do I mute it? If I,
Up there.
on the live?
There should be a little menu.
they could actually, as long as they have access to YouTube, you just provide them with that.
The link, but they can't actually be live with me without having a Gmail account. Okay.
Yeah, but you wouldn't want them to be live with you down here. Want to participate in it with you. Do you see what I'm saying? Questions through that.
Okay, so how do I get there then? I've not used this, so I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, it's going to come over here and let me show you. Netflix are watered down versions of what you get on your computer. So if you're going to do this, you've got to do it on a laptop or a desktop computer.
Okay, I have a Mac. So that would be.
So if you didn't get the link beforehand, you can click down in the corner to get the links. That's the YouTube link, or you can embed it onto your website.
Okay.
Up and it gives you several places to. As I'll add to the agenda, I did a is it me that's not muted?